I think that the music itself, I think even Chicagoans would admit that the music that they were playing that formed the basis of house music was from New York. All of the producers that they revere, Leroy Burgess, Patrick Adams, they're playing their music. All that music comes from New York. Frankie Knuckles was from New York. He moved to Chicago. He's playing primarily New York music. The music, again, being played at that time was not music made in Chicago, pre-house music, pre-Trax days. So all of that music forms the basis of house music, and the clubs and how music was being played is the same as what was being played in New York. I mean, to me, there's virtually no distinction between what Frankie Knuckles was playing at the Warehouse and what Larry Levan is playing at the Paradise Garage, T. Scott at Club Zanzibar. They're all playing the same music by the same producers on the same labels. I think that what Chicago did is exactly what you said earlier, started to take elements of those records and make them into a modern format using drum machines and bass lines, right? That was something new. I don't think you really saw that in the mid-'80s coming out of New York. You know, all of the tracks that Marshall Jefferson and Chip E and
Phuture.
Yeah, though that was new. That was new. And to the extent we're going to say that that modern form of dance music was house music, I agree with that. That wasn't coming out of New York.
And the name came from the Warehouse.
Of course. Yeah. We didn't call that house music in the tri-state area. We called it club music. It was called club music. That's what it was called. But they called it house music. How it got the name house music, I've heard all kinds of stories. Oh, it was Frankie Knuckles that came up with it because he played at the Warehouse, or no, it's because we played these records at house music parties. I don't know the exact origin, but I can say that house music, that term originated in Chicago. That is true. That was not something that was used in the New York area. And then as you get into the 90s, then you see the emergence of the New York labels. The Strictly Rhythms, the Emotives, the Shelter records, right? Nervous records, all of those records that are using primarily New York-based producers to make a sound that is kind of a New York sound, I would argue. You know, it has that sort of sound and feeling. It wasn't the same as what was coming out of Chicago. You didn't have like acid sounding records necessarily coming out on those labels. It was sort of melodic and drawing on elements of disco, but in a more sort of aggressive New York feel.